Hey YouTube, it's your girl, Dr. J, the Midlife Writer. And today I wanted to address a question that I've gotten, and I've seen some of my other friends who have moved to various countries for either short term or long term experiences have also gotten. And that is why I only speak about the positive things that I have experienced being here in South Korea. And there are two answers for that, and I'm going to go to both of those answers for you here today. So, the first answer to that question for me, remember, I can only speak on myself, is that the reason why I talk about having a positive experience here in South Korea is that my experience so far in South Korea has been very positive. I didn't come to South Korea with the expectation that everything would be perfect because I knew I was moving to a place filled with people, and people are imperfect. And not only are there different perceptions of people, are people just imperfect, but also something that I can perceive as different or strange or pass a judgment on that could be very different from the perspective of people that are in the country. But I didn't come here with rose colored glasses, and I didn't expect every day to be filled with sunshine and rainbows. But at the same time, my experience here has been positive. I'm not discounting the experiences of people who have had less than positive experiences when they've been in South Korea. I believe you, that's your truth. But my experience really has been as positive as I presented. I'm still having a very good time. Will I readdress this later over time? Absolutely. I'll shoot this video again in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, because I'm going to be here for at least 3 years. So, absolutely, I will come back and address this topic again later. But right now, my experience has been positive, especially because I have had some, not so great experiences in my home country of the USA. And so, my day to day here in South Korea is definitely an upgrade from what I was experiencing before I got here. So I enjoy the safety. I enjoy not having to worry about things like gun violence and all those other sort of things. So, yeah, I'm excited and I'm happy and I'm having a very good time. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of what I post is positive, and most of what I post on this channel regarding South Korea is going to be positive because that's a reflection of my real life lived experience. So, number two, why I am not going to say a whole lot of negative things about South Korea in my videos, and you won't really see that on this channel. And a lot of that has to do with what is a norm for me as an individual. I think you're always going to be influenced about in your life by the way that you were raised, right? And I, I am a product of my environment. I'm a product of my family. And one way in which I was raised and I continue to operate in that way is you don't be talking bad about people when you're a guest in their house. And right now, I am a guest in South Korea. And that means it is not my place, it is not my lane to be talking bad and telling them how they need to change and what they need to be doing differently. Because the reality is, when you a guest, if you don't like how things are going, that is when you should get your hat and your coat and you should leave. So I'm a guest. If I'm unhappy here, if I'm disappointed in how they live their lives, if I'm disappointed in the cultural customs, norms, and ideals, then that means that I need to be the one to leave that space. Just like if you were a guest in my house and you didn't like how I lived my life, you should get your hat, your coat, and leave. Another reason why that's really big for me is because as an African American, I have experienced people who are not a part of my culture, and I hear them saying negative things about my culture, especially sometimes when they've been invited into Black spaces, African American spaces, and then after they've had that invitation, they go out and they say a lot of negative things, and this is what I saw, and this is what I experienced, and a lot of judgment there. And a lot of times, those folks, not only are they loud, but they're also wrong. They misinterpret customs, they misinterpret ideals, they misinterpret norms, and they're sitting there bashing a culture that they don't even truly understand because they're an insider. Or they're not an insider, they're an outsider. They're just observing it. And they don't even have the grace to go and talk to an insider about those things, or just be quiet and don't speak on things that really don't apply to you. And so I'm really big on that. And the reason why I do oftentimes contrast my experience here in South Korea with my experience in the United States is because I can speak on the United States because I was born and raised in the United States. And not only was I born and raised in the United States, I don't just trace my family's lineage in the United States back a couple generations. My lineage in the United States goes back hundreds of years. I know the plantation that my great, 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 great grandfather fled from right before the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. I know where my great, 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 great grandmother was kept. And that's just the part of my lineage that can be traced. So I don't know how soon after 1619, when slavery was started in the United States, that my particular ancestors got here, not by their own choice. But I do know that my family that I can trace has been in the United States hundreds of years. I am an authority on the United States of America, and I will speak as an authority on the United States of America. And I can speak as an authority on African American cultural norms as a part of being an American, because my mama's side and my daddy's side were both African American. And so I understand the things that are similar and the things that are different, even in my maternal line versus my paternal line. So I have, again, a very long history being Black in America. So I can speak on, with authority, being Black in America. And so I will speak on, with authority, being Black in America. And I will speak on, with authority, the United States of America. But I am not an authority on South Korea. I don't even speak the language well enough to start commenting on other folks' customs, cultures, norms, and ideals and experiences and what they think and believe. Where do they do that at? Well, they do that on YouTube, but I'm not going to do that. And so if you want to be in a space where folks bash a culture that they don't even know, this is not the location for you. Okay? And so I am like that because I have watched people talk about Black Americans, and they have barely spent 10 days truly experiencing Black American culture, let alone 10 years. And even if you've been an observer of Black American culture for 10 years, you still are not an authority on Black American culture. And yet, when folks want to speak about it, and I have seen folks who, because they're, Black adjacent, or they married somebody who was Black, or they kind of look like somebody who's a Black American, they're trying to speak on it, and the number of times what they're speaking on is just wrong, or it is incomplete. And how frustrating that is for me. I'm not about to do that to somebody else's culture, especially when I am a guest in their house. Now, there is no law in South Korea saying that I can't say something bad about them. No one has threatened me and said I better not say nothing bad about them. I do not fear speaking bad about them. I just have no reason to speak bad about South Koreans or their culture, customs, norms, and ideals. It's not going to happen. Now, I'm not going to lie about my experience. If I taste something and I don't like it, I'm going to tell you, I tasted that. I didn't enjoy it. But I'm not going to bash it and be like, see, they don't know how to cook. They don't know how to season food. They don't know how to do this. I'm not going to, that's not going to be how that conversation goes. I can be not a fan of how the, roads in some neighborhoods have been paved. I can not be a fan about how folks, sometimes park, but that doesn't mean I'm going to sit up here and bash the way that people park. Like, I can say, hey, that's been hard for me to navigate, but I'm not going to speak negatively about it or draw judgments about their knowledge, skills, abilities, or competencies, or question their IQs and intellect because I don't like the way they park. Okay. And so, having been the victim of that as an African American, I'm definitely not going to bring that energy into this space. So, if you're looking for somebody who's going to bash a culture, this is not it. Because so if you ready for some South Korean hate, this is not the space to be in, because that's not my lane. And y'all know the midlife writer always stays in her lane. So I hope that helps. This is Dr. J, the midlife writer. Bye-bye.